Hello, everybody. This is not an episode of Astrid Ask. We'll put a disclaimer. This is for something a little bit later on, but something came up, and I knew I had to have only one person with me, and there was only that one person that I was not gonna do this. So let's see if I got this. Host, interviewer, and I'm trying to think of what else if I don't miss anything. Host, interviewer, yeah, and then content creator, obviously, of course. So that's a big one. So my good friend Demon Diva, aka Isa. How are you, Isa?
I'm so happy to be here. It's about time we got together. I am so excited to talk to you.
Yes, yes. I like how you're one of the few people that I've met in real life, but I haven't been able to do anything with you. So I'm glad this is the opportunity that came about for this.
I'm really proud of everything that you've been doing, and you're killing it. And I'm really, really happy to be a part of this.
Now, for those, we'll introduce it this way. It's not an episode of Astrid Ask. I'm gonna have Isa for one of those later, hopefully in the future. But the Damian Priest 24 documentary came out, and I thought I definitely want to talk about this and review it as a Damian Priest fan. And the first person that came to mind was Isa. First, not only because I know she loves Damian Priest, but because we're both Puerto Ricans as well, and that's the ultimate connection that we have here. So I knew I had to talk about it with you, and I just the moment this happened, I was like, I hope she's available. Whenever she's available, I will make it happen because this is something that has to happen. But for those of you that don't know, they've released Damien's documentary. I think about a week ago at this point,
On Monday.
talking about his journey up until like WrestleMania. I do wish it would have released this when he was champion though,
Me
instead
too.
of just now.
Me too. I was like giving SummerSlam predictions. Obviously, I was out in Cleveland covering
Hmm.
SummerSlam, and I was very certain that they were gonna have him retain, and that Gunther they will have a rematch with
Yeah.
Gunther in Bash in Berlin, and
Hmm.
possibly there he would drop only because of the documentary. So I'm sitting here thinking, I
Yeah.
mean, this documentary is coming out Monday. How do you have him lose the title?
Hmm.
I mean, I'm assuming that because the Rhea and Dom was gonna take place, it only makes sense to implode the Judgment Day all at once. But I gotta tell you, I was so wrong in my predictions because I was 1,000. Obviously, I also don't root against him, so I would always say Damian Priest, even if in my head I had a little bit of doubt. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you. I thought he would be champion by the time this came out,
Hmm.
and or they should have released it a little bit sooner, just
Yeah.
for SummerSlam before SummerSlam weekend.
Hmm. I feel like this would have been a good timing, like sometime after WrestleMania, because that's when the reign started, and
Mhm.
this is where the documentary ends. So I feel like that would have been a good timing of like it just ended basically a few weeks ago, sort of thing,
Yeah,
kind of
they
timing.
covered so much because they did, like, if you saw, they had a couple of inserts there, the Puerto Rican Day Parade. They had a couple of
Yeah.
inserts of things that he did post winning the title that I'm assuming the
Yeah.
editing and what stays, what goes, that takes some time. Especially WWE Productions always put out these incredible documentaries that I'm assuming once they done taping, they do take a little bit of time to find and retune. I got to watch it early because I did get to
Hmm.
attend the Damian Priest live show in Cleveland, and we got the screening of it, and we'll get into it. But girl, I was in tears like an idiot.
But tell me, what was that like? Because when I saw that, I was like, damn it, I wish I could be there. Because that was one of those that, if it's like once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, I was able to request it as media, and I gotta tell you something. There was a lot of events, but we couldn't get into all of them because there was just so many people and so many things. And that is the one that I remember thinking, man, if I cannot get into anything media wise, please get me into that one because obviously I know Damian Priest on a personal basis. I consider him a friend, a buddy, and I'm just so proud of everything that he's accomplished. Guys know how much I love Bad Bunny. There's so many things at Puerto Rico. There's so many things that I was like, I need to be there for that. The event itself was phone free, which is why you probably have not caught any clips or anything about it because they take your phone, they lock it up. They do this for the Sammy shows too and the Undertaker. You cannot have your phones, which makes you really take in the experience. So, but I did. Let me tell you, I did watch the documentary again to get ready for this, and I cried again. So I'm like, okay, it didn't matter if I had my phone or not. I was gonna cry. So I got there once the screening had started, so I couldn't tell you what the beginning of it was like because the media junket ended at noon and it started at noon, so I had to run for the junket to there. It was a very chaotic weekend. You know how they go. And so by the time I got there, it had started. So they showed that. And after that, the panel began, which was incredible. We got to see CM Punk talked about him, Rhea, Dominic Mysterio came out, Eddie, the referee who's been there throughout his whole
Yeah.
career. We learned that he did ask for Eddie to be there for the WrestleMania moment. He said there was other moments that it was kind of like it was by chance that Eddie ended up being the person that raised his hand, but he
Yes.
made sure to ask for Eddie for that moment. And of
Mhm.
course, it ended with Gunther crashing the party, but it was packed. There was a lot of fans, a lot of Puerto Rican flags on the crowd. It was a great experience. One of my favorites of the whole weekend.
Yeah, I'm glad you got. Once I saw that if they had that, I'm like, oh no, I would have ended up crying if I watched this. So I was like, okay, I'll wait until it gets released. And then once it got released, like I'm still gonna wait and see if I can review it. So I didn't watch it purposely until I had until I knew I could review it, so I could have it fresh in my mind.
Right.
But I wanted to know from obviously this is from a fan perspective. Overall, what were you in your feels like I was, because I was at work as I was watching it, so I had to hold it in. But there was moments that I was like, "There's nobody around, just in case."
I There's something about us Puerto Rican people and the pride that we feel.
Mhm.
And obviously there's always been that pride in him. But I don't know if you notice that in the background there's that backlash poster that I will
Yeah.
never take out from, sorry about that. I will never take out from my backdrop. I tell people I've lost count of how many events I ever covered, and backlash will forever not cover, attended, even as fans. And backlash would always be my favorite and the most meaningful thing to me. So that part of the documentary, I was a mess. Just hearing from his words how much he knew it meant for the island, for Puerto Rico, and the responsibility on their shoulders, and how serious they took it, and how they wanted to create a cultural moment for us. And I was like, yeah, you felt it, right? And
Mhm.
outside of that, that one really got me in
Right.
my feels. But I have the reason why I love Damian Priest so much as a fan, and even taking the Puerto Rico aspect of it, is because I feel like I can relate to his story. I mean, I tell people a lot. I don't come from a lot, and he spoke about hard times, and I've been through hard times. I used to be a lot bigger, and when I met him, I was like, I cannot believe how many things have lined up, because I was like, hey, I moved to New York City with like $200 in my pocket in a freaking
Mhm.
suitcase, right? And I was like, and a few years back, I was about almost 300 pounds. Like, it's crazy, all of the things that he's been through, that I feel like I can relate to. And a lot of times you find a character that you can relate to in a personal level, and your connection to them changes completely, because you feel like you've been in this person's shoes, and you know what it's like, and you see them accomplish their dreams, and it just gives you that motivation that everything that you set out to do, if you work hard enough, you're gonna get it. So, as the Puerto Rico aspect, I was crying, seeing everything and how much it meant to him. I was crying. And I mean, what I love the most is that they went through everything. The years even before he made it through WWE, like, they had this footage for every single thing. And if you don't know a lot about Damian Priest, like, I highly suggest you sit down and watch it, because your outlook on him and how hard he works might be completely different after you watch the documentary.
Yeah, and I feel you on the same level too. Even though I didn't move to New York, but I moved from Puerto Rico to Orlando. But it's something like
Mhm.
that. My family and I, we all had like I think like 5 suitcases each and whatever we had on ourselves, and we moved to hoping for that better future. So it's like I seeing that aspect of it from his family, and like even his family saying if he was struggling, we wouldn't know because he wouldn't tell us. Like
I'm the
fighting
same
like
way,
by
girl.
yourself. Woof.
You
I
know what's really funny, that you say that, because I feel like we're all that way. Like, we care so much about our family. We're built different. I tell people that all the time, because we fight like crazy, but we love, right? And it was
Mhm.
just so funny, because a little bit ago, I'm not kidding you, my mom knows that I'll never ask for help. I never say anything, but I can play you, when we go off the air, the voice note from my mom talking about the hurricane that's coming, and she's like, "You better be coming here. You're not gonna stay in your apartment alone for this." And I'm like, "Mom, it's not even a storm yet." And she's like, "I don't care." You're spending it with
Yeah.
us. And I'm like, okay. And it's just funny, because my mom knows that I will never call her and be like, "Hey, mom,
Mhm.
like, the hurricane's coming. Can I come over?" No, she has to force me there. That's just how we
Mhm.
are. And I love her mom
Yeah.
saying that, because some of us really are that way.
Yeah. So going back to the beginning of it, when did you first watching wrestle? Because for me, like I was telling you before we started recording, I went to WrestleMania in New Orleans with my brother. And then at that moment, we were thinking what we wanted to do prior to WrestleMania. So he said, between NXT Takeover and Ring of Honor?" And at that moment is when we had the Bullet Club and the Young Bucks and Hangman and Kenny and Cody. Everything was going on. So my brother said, "Why don't we go to Ring of Honor since we're already going to WrestleMania? And we see the W people in one way, and then we see the Ring of Honor people we want to meet." And I didn't realize even back then that this is my introduction to like the Briscoes. That's the only time I ever seen them live. This is when I saw Punishment Martinez live. And I'm telling you, like he was one of those people, like he captivated me in such a way that I wanted to see more from him, but I also didn't watch the Ring of Honor product. So I didn't
Right.
get to like watch from him during that time until later. Then I hear, oh, Punishment Martinez signed with NXT, and I said, no freaking way. I watch NXT all the time. This is my person. I get to watch him now. Like basically, I want to say like grow up to say like that in the WWE system. So thinking about the aspect of like now I get to see him on a weekly basis and watch him from being in NXT to what he is now and in Money in the Bank and World Champion, like everything. It's just like I couldn't believe that that was
Yeah.
the person I watched, and even now is I'm getting like I got the shirt because of him. If not, I would have gotten it. So it's like it's so many things thinking about it. But when was your first time that you saw him wrestle? That you're like, this is my person.
So I used to be very known for being WWE only when I originally started,
Mhm.
and I would do my reactions before media, right? When I was just posting reactions to my YouTube channel, but I would do a podcast with other people that would talk to me about people that I should keep an eye on. And I never forget my friend telling me, "Oh, you heard of Punishment Martinez?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Well, you like him because you like the big guys, and he's Puerto Rican." And I'm like, "All right, fine. Send me some clips." And that's how I got introduced to him. Like you mentioned, though, I was watching the WWE product weekly, religiously when he got called up. And I
Mhm.
remember hearing the name and
Yeah.
going, oh, I finally get to really check him out because I
Mhm.
wasn't going to be watching Ring of Honor, during his run
Yeah.
there. So luckily, I have gotten to watch him since day one in NXT into everything that he's done right now, and that builds a connection with those performers that you get to see since day one. And a fun fact is, my very first WWE interview as media was him. It was
Oh.
SummerSlam 2021, right before he won the United States Championship.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's like, and I love from your aspect that you get to experience this in such a different way than most of us because you have been there when, for this moment's life, like you said, the backlash and like when he cashed in, becoming world champion, everything. So it's like I remember one thing we do have in common that I would say, aside from what I mentioned earlier, is the fact that he got to watch our reactions on the bump when they had it on the bump. So
And
once
we
I
make
saw
fun my
myself,
I was like, oh, this is so embarrassing, but I'm also so proud. I wanted him to see how we all marked out for him.
right? I the funny thing is, like, I had seen the tweet and I thought I'm just gonna reply to it with my video. I don't think anything's gonna come of it. And what was my picture because it was picture of me crying once the cashing happened because I know we're gonna have different experiences because you were there live. For me though, I that moment that it was Punk and Drew, like that little moment that they had before the cash, and I remember kind of jumping in the couch a little bit and going, "Something's gonna happen here. Something's about to happen here." And I was like, "Oh my god, a cash in!" And I couldn't believe it. Once I heard the music, my hands were shaking. I was like, "Please don't be a failed cash in." That was the only thing I can think of. Please don't fail me like this. I was hoping they wouldn't give him that moment because I know prior to this, like during this whole process of him being senior Money in the Bank,
It
it
was a
became like
meme.
the yeah,
It
they
was a
mentioned it. It
meme.
was a meme. It was a joke. It's like he's gonna be a failed cash in. And seeing so many people mention that online made me think of like, please no, I don't want that to happen to him because I will cry even more, like
Oh
harder.
God.
Yeah, I was like, I will be devastated if that happens. So hearing the music, I started like shaking. I was about to cry, and I was like holding it in. And then once I heard that 1, 2, 3, I just couldn't hold it in. I started crying. I really did. It was like, how was that for you being there live though?
You the clip that they show on the bump is not the full reaction. You can go watch it on my
Mhm.
YouTube channel, ship plug. But you'll be able to see that even before Drew started the argument with CM Punk, as soon as they count the 1, 2, 3 on Drew, I'm saying, where's Priest? Where's Priest? Like I'm not even paying
Yeah.
attention to what's going on with Drew and
Mhm.
Punk because I'm thinking the fan in me is thinking this man has been through a lot, right? Like I'm thinking zombie smash, like I'm thinking 2 WrestleManias without being in the card. I'm thinking having to lose and getting booed in your home country to just make that match happen, right? I'm thinking this
Yeah.
man deserves this level of cash in. And I'm thinking if it doesn't happen at Mania, I don't want it, right? This is me being selfish, a fan who's being ride or die with him. So I'm like, where's Priest music? And then so of course I get into the Punk and Drew altercation, but as you know, because of the how the press box works, and we didn't have the sound on the TV, and we didn't have the windows open. That stadium had one that you can have the windows open, but it was freezing that night, so nobody wanted the windows open. So as soon as I see the cues and the music, I'm marking out. I'm thinking this is not gonna fail. Like
Yeah.
maybe that's why my reactions are so extra, because when I say something in my brain, I'm not believing that it's happening otherwise. So I'm like, oh my, I'm already celebrating, as you can see in the clip. I personally thought of the things that I told you about. Like, not only did he had a lot of highs, but he had a lot of lows. And he talked about, even in the documentary, about how after Edge left, there was a little bit of a period of time where things were kind of uncertain. He didn't know if the cashing was going to happen. So I'm thinking, no, it's going to happen. It's going to happen right here, Philadelphia, where he got started. It was so perfect. And just the perfect way to put a bow in his story, So I personally went into Mania thinking that the cashing was happening. He was going to
Oh
succeed. So I
gosh.
was just waiting for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna play the clip of mine because I knew I had mine saved and I could get it. I had screen recorded mine because at that moment, to put it like that, when he went on the bump, we don't know ahead of time that they're gonna show our clips. Like I had no
Right.
idea. And then I'm about to go into a meeting at work, and I start getting tagged by a bunch of my friends. He saw it. He saw it. He saw it. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't even think. I forgot his episode was airing that same day. And then I'm like literally shaking. I'm trying to keep it together before the meeting starts, and all I see is Damien saw your reaction to the cash in, and I went, no freaking way! I can't believe like that doesn't happen to me. So that meant a lot. Me to be able to have him see my reaction because I wish I could have recorded it, but it had a picture of me crying, which I'm likely gonna post in a moment. But that meant so much thinking of like he knows now how he made us feel in this moment, and I'm glad I wasn't the only one, obviously, because you were there too. And the funny thing for you, because you're supposed to be quiet in the press box if I'm not
Uh-uh.
mistaken too, but I was like, no, in that moment there's no quiet.
Nope. Nope. And the press box, there is a handful of Puerto Ricans up in there. So
Yes.
even if I stay quiet, noises were going to
Yeah.
be made because we're everywhere and we just take over the place
Yes.
when something good happens.
Yes, that's true. I'm gonna hopefully I don't get flagged with copyright, but I'm gonna show you guys the clip of where he saw my reaction to the cash in.
This is surreal, I'm sure. Is it almost seeing that stuff almost like an out-of-body experience in a way to be able to kind of see all of this from other people's perspectives?
It's beautiful, man. It really is. I can't thank people enough, and the fact that people are feeling that emotional over me winning the championship means the world to me, and I cannot say thank you enough. And sigan apoyando. Yo voy a seguir dándole duro.
I got to tell you something. This one puts on a very professional opinion.
I forgot I put the wrong clip, but that's one of them. I'm gonna put the other one in a moment too. But still, it's just like it's one of those moments that it doesn't happen like that. And to think of us Puerto Ricans, we don't have a lot of representation often. So I feel like now recently we especially have like I want to call like a big wave of people. We have the Santanas and the Zelina Vegas, and it's little by little how we had Puerto Ricans come here and there and show off in such a way that it just makes me so happy to see it. And that moment to me was just like it meant so much. It really did. And I kept thinking also of from your perspective, because not only are you a Damian Priest fan, like you mentioned, but you're also a Bad Bunny fan, and you've been there for Backlash when they both, this was happening, and they had the Mania match together too. So tell me from your perspective, how was that? Seeing it from the documentary versus like your reaction to being there live.
I had a series on my YouTube channel where I was asking people throughout the island, even people from the WWC locker room, like, "Hey, are you for Bad Bunny? Are you for Damian Priest?" Because that's the actual hype that was like happening in the island, where it was what everybody was talking about. It was surreal. It meant so much. Like I couldn't. It felt very. I just couldn't believe it. You know how long WWE had done anything here, and they did came back for house shows. They did. I even flew down a few times when I still didn't live here to take my mom to some of them. But a pay-per-view, and for it to even start when I asked Triple H that question at a press conference, and for it to come to fruition, like it was like crazy to me. Like the whole thing felt very out of body experience. And like I mentioned to you, I got to go to a community event that they did here, and I got to interview Priest there. And it was actually really funny because as a Bad Bunny fan, the biggest Bad Bunny fan, there he is. Look at that. That was my favorite interview ever. It was like two people that this meant a lot to, just talking. And in that interview, I died laughing because I wanted to like take him out of character. So I was like, oh, what do you gotta say to the delusional people that are rooting for Bad Bunny? Because I'm over here the biggest Bad Bunny fan, but I wanted the wrestler to freaking win, you know? So he started saying, he's like, oh yeah, they don't know what they're talking about. And I'm like, yeah, but if it was a rap battle, Bad Bunny will beat you. And he just busted out laughing. And I'm like, there it is. I got him off character because, you know, he's always the big, bad, serious guy. And he's like, okay, yeah, he'll beat me, but not in a wrestling ring.
Yeah, that's true.
It was so much fun. Everybody was full of joy. I got, as you know, I got to hang out with the LWO. We got tattoos. That whole weekend was like an experience that I will never forget. And just seeing the hype around the island. If you go back and watch some of my reactions, there's a little kid sitting behind me that I wanted to adopt him. Like, he was having so much fun. He's like, oh, I watched, he was 9. He's like, I watched this my whole life. I never thought I would come to one of these events. And sometimes when you go to so many, like, it kind of just like, it's like another day at work, not Backlash. It was in Puerto Rico. It was with my people. And I always tell, like, you know, my 3 favorite things in the world are wrestling, Bad Bunny, and Puerto Rico. So to have that moment where that's all combined, I'm like, it felt like a drug, okay? And nothing would ever match that Bad Bunny entrance at Backlash in Puerto Rico. Like, wrestling can try to do all of this. That cash-in came pretty close, not gonna lie. But for me, it was just to see the excitement of everybody in the island, to get to experience what I'm very lucky and fortunate to get to experience with my work and the content that I create, for them to bring it here and for everybody to see what the crowd was like. And that Bad Bunny entrance still gets talked about. And I'm like, bring them more often, because that's really how it is here. And it's not a one-off. They could come every year and you're going to get that same energy from the crowd. I cover WWC here, and that's how the crowd shows up to shows that are a lot smaller. You know what I mean? But people here love the wrestling.
Yeah, and I remember, like, even watching the documentary when he mentions at the beginning, he says in Puerto Rico wrestling is like a religion. It's like, it's true when you think about it, because there's so many. It's like, I remember when I was younger, when my grandpa watched wrestling. I think it was on Saturdays, if I'm not mistaken, and they aired it.
Guapa.
And I could hear it. I wasn't watching it, but I could hear it's like Atangana and those kind of things like that. That doesn't get away from your mind. It's like, and I didn't think about it later on, because I'm always thinking like my dad is the person that made me get into wrestling. But I remember in Puerto Rico hearing my grandpa watching that, because I remember hearing it all the time. I wasn't watching it, but I was listening to it as I was doing other stuff around him. And just thinking about the fact that wrestling goes back even further than I expected it to be. I didn't think about that until a lot later. And thinking, I was like, you know, who doesn't know Carlitos Colon in Puerto Rico? Like, who doesn't know Sabio Vega? Who doesn't know even, you know, Carlitos Colon over there? Like, it's so weird.
You brought up the Atangana, and I love that, because working with Lucha Libre Online, Hugo became a co-worker. And I remember the first time meeting him, I'm like, you were my whole childhood. You were my watching the Lucha Libre from Puerto Rico. And then when I started watching WWE, that's the voice that I hear. Like, this guy got, like, friends with him now, which like insane, because like it's the same way that some people around our age group see JR and they just go crazy. That's Hugo to me. That Tangana will forever be rent-free in my brain.
And I have moments that I didn't think about that until like later on. I thought, I remember listening to that when I was younger. It's always like Carlitos Colon this and Carlitos Colon that. And I was like, I didn't think about that aspect of it. And he described it so perfectly there when he said it's like a religion. We all know about it. And it's like whenever there's a pay-per-view, or like even with like boxing, for example, that's another thing that happens to it in Puerto Rico. It was like, I remember like my grandparents have the like house in the corner. So everybody wants to watch it, and the big screen that the neighbor has, and the barbecue this and do that. And it's like kind of like the thing we do here with the pay-per-view parties in my own home, but like obviously in a bigger scale. But all the neighbors come watch it together with a big screen, and you know there's food and everything. The celebrations of the Puerto Ricans win, and it's like it's such a bigger thing, and it's bigger than what we think it is here, to be honest, in the island. And not only that, by watching in the documentary too, the part after he cashes in and seeing the people that he admires go up to him, he's like, "Oh look," and then the NW will put me over. I can't fail now, and it's like those moments. It's like
the Undertaker congratulated him. And
yes,
the Rock. You can see
the
like
Rock.
when the Rock congratulates him, and he goes, "Well, that's cool," and you can just see like the fan in him, like keep it cool. But you know that was cool. And the Undertaker meeting his family, like he talked throughout the entire documentary of what a big Undertaker fan he is, and you can see it. Seeing seeing his hug with Scott Hall, knowing that he's a huge Scott Hall fan, he uses the surfer walk like Scott Hall, got permission from him, and obviously he's no longer with us. So I'm sorry, not Razor Ramon. That you know what I mean. Like he's no longer with us. So seeing Damian talk about the people that believed in him since day one, X-Pac, like it is crazy to me to see him like interact with the people that he talks on the beginning that he really, really, like.
Not only that, and thinking of, like, for me, I'm also a big like Seth Rollins fan. So when he goes backstage and Rollins hugs at me, it's like, this is your moment, baby. This is your moment. And the way he hugs him, just like, I love when you get those moments backstage, like Bailey hugging him and Triple H, and it's like the way that people are so emotional with him, and the way Triple H says, just let it out, just be emotional, don't worry about it. That really got me.
The Bailey thing got me because that is one of the things that I learned from the documentary, that Bailey went to one of his indie shows and said, this guy got everything. Why are you not working with us? And even approached him about that. And he talked about what that meant to him and how that inspired him, because he said, if I have a WWE superstar telling me that I got it, I need to get there. But I had no idea about that, the Bailey thing. So that one was a fun finding from the documentary.
Yeah, I didn't know about that one either. And like thinking also like people like Paul Heyman who will also remember him. It's like every time he was in the Philadelphia area, it's like even Northern, it's like he will call him up to do extras. And I like how they bring up the fact that he was an extra. Like I've never seen that picture online before, but I never watched the clip for some reason. I remember watching it in that moment, but I'd never seen it after. It's when he's backstage, he's like a security guard for Stephanie with the Brie Bella, Nikki Bella thing. And thinking of like, there's so many moments that even now I joke around and I say, whenever there's a security guard or a cop, and I say, always watch out and remember those faces, because you never know when you're going to see them later. And it's like, it reminds me of that because it happened with Gargano, they happened with Ciampa.
CM
seeing it
Punk
with him
was a driver on a John Cena entrance at one point. Yeah.
So seeing that, I was like, wow, it's just nice to see him like from there to like where he is now. And even like I remember seeing it there, but at least seeing the clips of like the Judgment, they like at Gorilla just jumping up and down and like crying with him when the moment he cashed in. It's just like that was another one that really got me, because we're thinking about it, obviously they're heels, but this is like what 2+ years of them working together, and you travel together, you get to know each other, so that helps on screen. But there's sure so many moments together that we don't get to see because obviously this is on the road. And be able to like have those moments together like that's so precious.
And they talked about the WrestleMania before, where Damian, granted, that kicked off his feud with Bad Bunny, but Damian was not on the card, and he was out there. He was the first person that Rhea hugged when she won from Charlotte. He was out there for Dominic. Finn Balor had a match, and I thought it was really special that they showed like he was there to support him, even though he wasn't on the card. And as a WWE superstar, you know that stings. Not everybody can make it on the card, obviously, and there was bigger, better things in store for him. I don't think he would change anything about how he got to where he got, but I thought it was super special to see them be there for him and be the first people that, that he hugged when he won. And Finn Balor saying, sometimes I get excited for other people's successes more than my own. That's family. You know what I mean? That's when somebody loves you and care about family, because that's when you become happier than even you would if it happened to you. So yeah, it was very special to see his friendship with Rhea. I love that they're going to get to work together moving forward, because the Terror Twins is such an underrated friendship that I feel now will have all eyes on it. But I feel like people don't talk about it. They came to NXT together. They've been through everything together. They've been through a lot of similar things together, and I just love seeing that. Seeing their friendship in the documentary. And stay tuned, because now they're going to be faces working together, and I'm super looking forward to their future.
Yeah, and I love that part too when she says Priest is my comfort person. And I was like, I think about it this way. It's not often that you get to see a female and male friendship like the way they have it. A lot of people always ship you together, but to have that happen and be something successful is like, she's successful, I'm happy for her. I'm successful, she's happy for me. And seeing that, that back and forth they have each other, and she's winning the championship, like jumping on him and celebrating. I was like, oh my God, I love their friendship so much.
As somebody that 99% of my friends are male and 0.1 are female, I love seeing this, because I'm tired of everybody seeing the male-female perspective and not thinking that a good friendship can come out of it, because they can. A lot of the people that are considered in my close circles are guys. Probably why I'm such a big fan of this friendship.
Yeah. I actually found my clip, so I'm going to show my clip of actually the bump before I forget about it here.
Before we wrap up, a couple final questions with Damian Priest.
Yeah, Damian, what we did yesterday is we asked our audience to send us pictures, videos of them reacting to WrestleMania. Well, you're here, and we'd be foolish to do anything other than react to the cash-in. Let's start with this first one from Astrid, who says that she was crying during the cash-in itself. Again, talk about these moments that resonate all the way around. And then we have a couple pieces of video. We're going to start with this first one. Now, the video is sideways.
Yeah, just let me tell you, like thinking of like we both had that moment in common too, that he was able to see our reactions, and it's just nice to see some people like that represent us and that represent as well being successful as well. Like I feel it adds another layer to what we feel already with him and that connection. And thinking about, I was like, this is the first Puerto Rican world champion we had in about 50 years. And thinking like hopefully it'll keep going from there. More people will get inspired to do that. But again, this documentary was so well done. I'm so glad they did this with him.
It's really funny that the documentary goes through his whole history, because at the press conference immediately after I got lucky enough to ask him a question with shout out to them, because the first 3 questions went to Puerto Rican. It was Aiden, it was Joel, it was me, and I was like, yes, that doesn't happen by chance, just who gets the mic. But my question to him immediately after cashing in was like, can we take a look at the last 2 years of your career, from zombies to Bad Bunny to tag team titles to briefcase to now this? Like, can you talk to me about this? And that's when he mentioned, like, I was uncertain that I was going to even stay with WWE. So when he gave me that answer, I got a lot of feedback of saying, wow, Priest story is really deep. And I'm so glad that it's out there now in a documentary for people to see, because what he said in his response was just a preview of what we actually saw in the documentary.
Yeah, so overall, how would you summarize watching this? Not only watching it once, but watching it twice at this point.
Right.
So it's
I
like,
cry
are you
both
gonna?
times. I cry both times. But
I don't blame you.
I do suggest that as a watch. I think you just get to see so much behind the scenes. You get to Damian Priest, if you go and search through his socials and all that, he's a very private person. And I can't imagine what it took for him to put, especially his mom and his sister. I have had the honor of meeting his dad. His dad is 10 out of 10. I love his dad. His brother Alex, he's everywhere. But seeing Steven there, like, it was like, for me, I know how much it meant to him to come to them and say, hey, let's do this. Let's tell my story to the world. And at the panel, Priest said, the reason why I got out of my comfort zone and show you guys the people that I'm closest to is because if this can inspire one person, and I shared with you earlier how I feel like we have a lot in common, and you keep seeing somebody chase the goal and achieve it. It's inspirational. He said, if I can inspire one person, I've done my work here. And I think it's a very inspirational story. I feel like people are just going to learn. Even if you've been watching from Ring of Honor, I feel like there's going to be things in here that you're just not going to learn from not watching the documentary. I would tell everybody, watch it, whether you are just a fan, whether you're a casual, or you're Puerto Rican, it doesn't matter. I feel like anybody that enjoys wrestling is going to enjoy the documentary. I would even show it to non-wrestling people just to see an inspirational story.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would have changed about it would have been, like I said earlier, the releasing of it. Because I also thought about that aspect of like him and Gunther went back and forth, and he mentioned that he's from the streets and everything, but we don't get to see that aspect of his life. So I feel like when he started having those promos with Gunther, we should have gotten this just to have it as a little bit of a extension to what he was saying during the promos, and to understand that even more. And then now thinking about it later, it's like now I understand even more what he mentioned in the promos, from sleeping in his car to like sleeping people's couches and suffering and not even telling his family about it, all because he had a dream. And to be able to like think about his dream come true, and to think like he had a moment of Backlash, he had a moment of WrestleMania, and who knows what other moments he's gonna get from there on, because like we said, live forever. He's gonna be here for a while, and
He's
we're
gonna
hoping
live
that
forever.
happens.
That name will be talked about. It's in history. First champion in 70 years, from Puerto Rico. Like, there's a couple of moments in there that I think will really inspire people. The story about the job where he was gonna get a promotion and they told him he needed to stop wrestling. That was great. There was the sad part about his car getting broken into and what happened. Like, I don't want to say too much because I really want people to go watch it, but I'm telling you, like, as somebody that knows him on like a personal level, I've learned a lot from him.
Yeah, but again, I want to thank you for being here with me and be able to like talk about this, because You're the number one I could think about when to talk about this being Damian Priest and Puerto Rican. So it's like I know we have to share as Puerto Rican sisters here. So I know I meant a lot to both of us, not only as fans but as Puerto Ricans to see him, and I mean eventually like Puerto Rican parade as well, and things, those moments that he gets to have, and like nobody can take that away from him, and I just love seeing that on screen. And like we mentioned, please watch it if you haven't yet. I feel like it's definitely a must watch. It's always nice when you get to watch the behind the scenes and the story of somebody and you can relate to them and you can connect on a deeper level than just a character that we see on screen. And just thinking of like whenever you see them, you want to cheer them on after knowing their story. And I feel like this is exactly what happens with him. And I hope more people realize why we're fans and end up like following him afterwards as well. But before we let you go, I wanted to see what do you have going on? What do you want to promote before we finish the recording here today? I'm talking about Damian Priest.
Obviously, people can find me across socials, NYCDemonDiva. You guys can subscribe to my YouTube channel, same handle. I'm trying to reach 25,000 subscribers. I'm dropping some interviews promoting WWC's show Aniversario. That's here in Puerto Rico. That's the WrestleMania of WWC. So we're super excited. Nick Nemet's going to be here, and it's going, Ryan Nemeth. We're going to have some people coming over along with the local talent. And right now, people have been asking me for more Spanish content. So there's going to be a couple of interviews with the locals as well as the people that are visiting for that. You guys can check out some of my interviews with Lucha Libre Online. And sometimes I'll be appearing in WWC, whether it is as a character, as a ring announcer, as a presenter. They have me do it all there, girl. And that's the wrestling company that I grew up in. So every time I'm doing anything with them, I'm like a little girl, marking out, because I tell everybody, I'm like, I never wanted to be a wrestler ever, but any kind of aspect around that I always love. So, and they try to use me for that. So I'm going to be part of Aniversario, but they haven't told me in what capability. So tune in for that too. But yeah, NYCDemonDiva, Lucha Libre Online, and WWC.
There you go. For me, you can find me on Tuesdays on Taking Over with Ed as we discuss NXT, and then you can find me on my YouTube channel, which is just like my name, Astrid Pizarro. I'm on my road to 500 subs. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do and click on that bell to be notified when I upload. And again, this is also going to be on OLE, so our local establishment. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to do this. I love how the group mentioned unanimously. It's like you're definitely going to be reviewing this after you watch it because you're the one we want to hear from. So I'm very excited that I was able to talk with Isa of all people about this and have this discussion about Damian Priest and documentary. So like we said, if you haven't yet, please watch it and let us know how you feel about it afterwards. We want to hear your thoughts on it. And again, let us know in the comments if you watched it. If you watched it, did you cry? Did you tear up like what we did? What moments made you tear up? Because it probably might be different from ours. But again, this was such a great documentary. I cannot wait to watch it again. This is one of those like rare moments that I wish we have a physical copy of it because I would like to have one.
Yeah.
WWE, please, maybe something would like that would happen, perhaps.
Yeah.
But again, you can find me again on my socials, Astrid Pizarro, which is Blue Sky and Twitter, and Threads and Instagram is Astrid Pizarro 20. And again, thank you, Isa, for being here with me today, and thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.